If you're anything like me, you're probably an NFL sicko. And let's be honest, you clicked on this video, you know what you're getting into. You're an NFL sicko. And as a result, you probably enjoy preseason football. However, it's really hard to enjoy preseason football in today's age of the internet because no matter what, whether you comment on a guy playing well, a guy playing poor, you're going to hear the same three words over and over. It's just preseason. And now, obviously, there is truth to this, right? Preseason is a simplified version of the NFL featuring very basic schemes, very simple play calling, as well as an abundance of backup players that rarely end up cracking a 53-man roster. That being said, I think it's really boring to look at the preseason and write it off as nothing, as there is some value to be had throughout these first couple games. So I wanted to take a look at 10 players who stood out to me throughout the first week of the preseason, explain why they stood out, and hopefully convince you to keep an eye on them going forward. So with that said, make sure to subscribe for more NFL content coming over the next couple weeks, and without further ado, let's jump into it. So starting out here, there were a handful of quarterbacks that I considered here. And when you take a look at this year's rookie class, it was pretty underwhelming. Most would have told you it was a bad class, including myself, I won't lie. But I was impressed by a handful of the rookies that played. Cade Klubnik played well for the Jets this week. Carson Beck obviously stood out in that amazing Hall of Fame game. But the name that came to mind when I was thinking about which quarterback impressed me the most was Drew Aller of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And look, Aller may have been the third stringer for this game. He did not get the starting nod over Mason Rudolph or Will Howard, but he easily looked more comfortable and poised than the two of them throughout this game. He was in full command of the offense, dealing accurately left and right on two sustained 10-play drives that he was able to lead as the offense marched down the field. You also saw the big slant to Caden Weegan, who also was pretty impressive in this game, which ended up setting up a rushing touchdown for Aller, so you got to see a little bit of the athleticism on display, which is really exciting. Aller has the athleticism, he has the arm, he has the physical tools that you can get excited about for an NFL quarterback. The problem coming out was the polish, right? He never looked in full command of Penn State's offense. He never looked like a super poised quarterback. And I will say this throughout every player we talk about, I get that it's just preseason, but you can't deny that Aller looked like a more complete product for Pittsburgh in this week. And we'll see how that translates going forward. But listen, Pittsburgh's got to figure out the quarterback spot. I don't think Will Howard is their answer there. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is old. Mason Rudolph is a career backup. You got to get something at quarterback. And if Aller can pull together some of the more technical aspects of quarterback play, then I think he has all the tools you want in a franchise quarterback. I think he can be that guy for Pittsburgh. So all that said, if this is the floor for Drew Aller, if this is what we're looking at as, the worst he's going to be in the NFL, then I'm going to buy my stock now. Like, I am in on Drew Aller. And I will say, going into this class, I did have Aller as my QB3, but again, I wasn't super impressed with any of the quarterbacks outside of the top two, who both went in the first round. But outside of Mendoza and Ty Simpson, both of which played well this week as well, I didn't really think any of them had the it factor to be a franchise quarterback, for lack of better words. But Aller, if he can continue to play like this, he's got the juice. I saw a tweet the other day talking about how the Dallas Cowboys always have at least one training camp darling at wide receiver, somebody who comes out of nowhere, wins over the fan base, and makes a push for the final 53. And this year is no exception, as UDFA rookie Camden Brown really showed out in that first preseason game. Now, you take a look at Dallas's roster right now. They are competitive at wide receiver. You obviously have your big two with Pickens and Lamb. You also have Ryan Flournoy, who is a fantastic former late-round pick for the Cowboys. You've also got Kevontae Turpin, who's going to make the roster as a kick returner. You've got Jonathan Mingo, who they gave up draft capital for not too long ago and is a fine enough depth receiver. You have Marquez Valdes-Scantling, who has been around the league for a while and plays a very specific role that Dallas does not have. Outside of that, though, you've got three young guys in Camden Brown, Jordan Hudson, and Anthony Smith, all of whom are rookies this year. And I would say through the first week of the preseason, Brown has given himself a noticeable leg up over the others. And I know that preseason production isn't exactly the best determiner of potential success, so I don't really want to talk about the stats here with Brown. I want to talk about his play, watching the film, because this is a guy who was consistently open for Dallas in that preseason game. He was creating separation with ease, and when he didn't separate, he was able to go up and win 50-50 opportunities, most notably the jump ball in the end zone that he had, the 39-yard touchdown. And if that wasn't enough to excite you, you also had the one-handed fade ball that he caught for his second touchdown. Like, this guy was a true highlight reel. He also had another reception that was a little less exciting, but still notable, right? He showed better speed than his 40 time would have suggested. The guy ran a 4.59. He did not look like he was running a 4.59 out there with pads. He was able to weaponize his long strides, and he built up speed to create consistent separation throughout his route. Like, he really looked like a complete receiver out there. And with these young guys, he's got to stand out, right? He's got to make himself known, especially because you already have Anthony Smith, who was drafted by them. He's going to have an inherent leg up because they invested capital. Camden Brown really outplayed him and really impressed. And I really do think there is a world where he can come in and be that wide receiver 4 for Dallas. He's got the build, he's got the athleticism, he's got really good hands. He's got what you want. And the guy's only 22. Like, he is a young receiver with good tools, good hands, could potentially blossom into something for you. I think this was a heck of a pickup by Dallas in the offseason, and he's a guy I am absolutely buying stock in right here, right now. That takes us from a current Cowboy to a former one, as Jalen Brooks, the second-year wide receiver who was drafted by Dallas last year, has been balling out for the Arizona Cardinals. And this one might be cheating a little bit because we do have 2 games to look at from Jalen Brooks as opposed to 1 for everybody else. But I don't care, man. He's been fun. I've really liked watching him. Through 2 games, he's leading the league in receiving yards with 151. He has 9 receptions, and he scored a touchdown against the Raiders. And even if you just want to look at the Raiders game, he handled himself really well. He came up in big moments for them, had a really good touchdown reception from Gardner Minshew, where he was running a goal line fade and had to turn, perfectly positioned himself while in the air, hauled the ball in, held on to it. And then you go back to the Panthers game, he had that huge catch where he got absolutely leveled downfield and held on to it. Like, I have been really impressed with him so far through 2 games. You see the body control, you see really good footwork on his releases. He's done a good job selling double moves. You saw that one against the Panthers where he pulled off a really nice double move where he kind of like stopped his momentum and then continued upfield, resulted in a huge completion for Carson Beck. Like, he has played so well, and he's not the only receiver playing well for Arizona. You also have rookie Reggie Virgil, who's played pretty well, But I like Brooks a little bit more. I will say I am a little bit more into Brooks and his profile and what he's been able to do. And you take a look at this Cardinals receiving room, you obviously have your 2 solidified number 1 and number 2 with Michael Wilson and Marvin Harrison Jr. But outside of that, that wide receiver 3 role is theoretically up for grabs. Because let's be honest here, Kendrick Bourne is a solid player, but he's not some insurmountable foe that you cannot overtake on the depth chart, right? He is a fine wide receiver, but he is replaceable. He is expendable. And if either Virgil or our boy Jalen Brooks here can take that step and end up overtaking him as their wide receiver 3, I would not be surprised. Again, I am leaning more Jalen Brooks. I think he is the better player right now. But either way, I think both of them make the roster for Arizona. I think you've got some really nice depth there for this team. And as I said in my ranking every team video, this Cardinals team is really setting up a good infrastructure for whoever their franchise quarterback is going to be, whether it's Carson Beck, whether it's a guy they draft in the top 5 next year, whoever it is, between McBride and Wilson and hopefully Harrison Jr. taking a step up and these 2 young guys. Like, it's exciting. I really like it. So Brooks has the route running. He has the footwork. Again, the body control has really been the standout to me, the toughness. He is fighting his ass off to make this roster, and I really do think he will be rewarded for it. So my stock has been bought. I'm in on it. I didn't watch him pre-draft last year, didn't know a ton about him before this preseason, if I'm being totally honest. And now, knowing what I know, I'm a fan. Jumping back over to the AFC now, we've got Kaliki Latu, the tight end for the Buffalo Bills, the 2nd-year UDFA. And honestly, I was really impressed with his blocking. Like last year, you saw Buffalo's run game. It was dominant because of the auxiliary blockers that they had. Their receivers, their tight ends, fullback Reggie Gilliam, like they were able to pound the rock because those guys were able to step up and make blocks for them out in open space and downfield. And it's clear that that is something that Buffalo is proud of and is really hammering into their players, because Latu was everywhere in this game with big blocks. He had multiple key blocks on big runs. He had a legit pancake block on a 16-yard run from Frank Gore Jr. He was able to pick up a handful of receptions as well, so he wasn't just an inline blocker. He had 30 yards on the day. Like, he really showed out as a versatile tight end for them. He was catching the ball, he was blocking. It was kind of like a diet version of Jackson Hawes, who was so good for them last year. He was doing a lot of the things that Hawes does for this offense. And do I think Latu is as good as Hawes? Probably not. But I do think he is somebody that could crack this roster as tight end 4. We have seen the league over this summer really transition into really wanting to emphasize 13 personnel. And obviously that trend started during the regular season last year, but this offseason, with the big run on tight ends we had in the draft, teams like Chicago drafting a third tight end very, very high in this draft, a lot of teams are going to value this tight end depth and having guys like Haas or Latu that can set big blocks for them and can be big pieces in the run game, but also go out and catch passes. So when they come out in 13 personnel, they're not just selling that they're going to run the ball. They're not just telegraphing that to the defense. They are saying, hey, we could do one or the other. Pick your poison on what you want to commit to, right? So if he doesn't make Buffalo's roster, Latu has the blocking chops to make another team happy as their tight end 3 or 4. So I really do think this is somebody that the film nerds will be talking about this season as like, Latu's a big reason why X team is able to run the ball as well as they are. I think he will be a part of that. And, again, whether it's Buffalo, whether it's somebody else, I don't care who it is. I've bought my stock. I'm in on Latu. I really, really love a good blocking tight end. And it doesn't hurt either that he is the brother of one of my favorite draft prospects ever in Laiatu Latu. So I'm a big fan. I like Latu, and I'm really hoping that he catches on somewhere this season as a true stud blocking tight end. So with everyone and their mother talking about Fernando Mendoza, I want to talk about the other Fernando here, because Fernando Mendoza is great. Don't get me wrong. I think he is the Raiders franchise guy, but there is another Fernando from this draft class that deserves a little bit of recognition that should really be on your radar, and that is Fernando Carmona, the guard from the Tennessee Titans, who they drafted on day 3 this year, and according to everything I've been able to find, looks like he's going to be starting for them. Because this offseason, the Titans paid Peter Skoronski big money, which is well-deserved. He's one of the best young guards in the league. But there's been a big question about who's going to start opposite him. You had Carmona, Cordell Volson, and second-year day 3 pick Jackson Slater as your 3 options, it looked like. And Carmona won the job in camp. He got the start this week in their first preseason game. And hearing the coaches and the other players talk about him, it looks like this is his spot, right? Like, it looks like he is going to be the starter for them. And looking at his performance in week 1 of the preseason, you can see why. He didn't allow any pressures, didn't allow any sacks on 32 reps for this team. He was a key blocker on Tony Pollard's 5-yard touchdown run. He was getting out in space and leveling dudes, did a great job picking up stunts. He was setting key blocks left and right, and he just held his ground incredibly well across the board. In the passing game, he was constantly looking for work, had his head on a swivel, was playing with high effort, high intensity. He was playing his ass off for the Titans and really, really looked impressive. I cannot stress enough how awesome it is to see a day 3 guard step in like this and, again, win over everybody. You saw, I believe it was Jeff Simmons had a big quote about him. I don't remember it off the top of my head. I'll put it on the screen. He was praising him. I believe he said he hadn't seen somebody step in and take control at his age or something like that. It was something about stepping in and taking control quickly. And you can see that on tape. He is a key part of this offensive line already. And I was really, really impressed with what I saw across the board. And it doesn't hurt that Cordell Volson and Jackson Slater both didn't look that good in this game. So you already won the spot going into the preseason game. You came out, played well, and then your competition didn't. Like, he's in a great spot to continue that trajectory and start week 1. And if that's the case, that's a huge win for the Titans. And I know a lot of Titans fans are upset about Cam Ward's first performance. That's one of those ones where I really do think you have to say it is just preseason and move on. But, like, with that, ignore that. Don't focus on Cam Ward playing poorly. Focus on the fact that you might have found your other starting guard in, like, what was it, the 5th round this year? Huge pickup for the Titans. Very good player. Very impressed with him across the board. Obviously still has a little bit of room to grow in some technical areas, but I really do think he is playing very, very well, and I'm very excited to continue to follow him throughout this upcoming season. Moving us over to the defensive side of the ball, I did not want to include multiple players from the same team in this video, so I really struggled with the Bears, because obviously I'm a Bears fan. I've spent the most time watching these guys, and I was impressed with a handful of guys, especially on the defensive line. But I figured, you know what, Jordan Vandenberg, I already made a video about him this week. We're not going to talk about him. Beanie Bishop, I'm a huge fan of the guy. I've loved him since he was at West Virginia as a WVU fan, but, like, you know, his interceptions kind of have a little asterisk next to them because they weren't really his doing. Those were, as Twitter keeps saying, those were meatball subs served up on a silver platter that he didn't really have to work for, right? So I didn't want to hype him up too much. James Lynch played pretty well. Malik Muhammad, I didn't want to include him for reasons we'll talk about at the end of the video, which left me with Jamri Chroma. And honestly, he probably had the best game out of everybody that I just mentioned. Chroma was electric. Like, I did not know this guy had it like that. Chroma is a third-year UDFA who started out with Chicago, went to the Patriots last year, and then came back to Chicago. And his explosiveness and that first step quickness were off the charts in this game. He was so quick off the ball, And then you pair that with a little bit of bend, good short area movement, and decent lateral agility, like he was getting to the quarterback. And on top of that, the dude has 35-plus-inch arms that he was able to weaponize using that long arm move to get pressure, to get inside the tackle's chest, drive him back. Like, he was playing so well. And sure, he had his lapses against the run game here and there, but that's okay. The Bears are not desperate for a run stuffer right now. You've got Montez Sweat. You've got those big boys in the middle. You've got a good linebacker room. You're not worried about stuffing the run. You're worried about getting after the quarterback. This defensive line needs a little bit of extra juice, and Chroma has it in droves. Like, this dude was so athletic, so quick off the ball. And again, I understand this is the Browns' second, third string D-line we're talking about him going against, but he did have some plays against the ones that were impressive, that I was a fan of, and even then it's Cleveland, so take it as you will. But I do think the movement, that alone is enough to get you excited, because when you're watching preseason, the best thing you can see is guys who look different, look like they're in a different league than the guys they're going up against. And Chroma really did look that way. He had multiple sacks, he had a forced fumble, he was in the backfield, often had, I think, 6 pressures total. Like, he was what the Bears wanted to see. And you pair that with Jordan Vandenberg, who was in a very similar boat. Some of these guys in the secondary, there might be something brewing with that Bears defense, right? Like, I know it's kind of been a laughingstock all offseason, and I get it, but you had some guys to get excited about with the depth, which is nice. And the Bears all offseason have told us that they like this D-line depth a lot, and they like it a lot more than the media, obviously. And you think it's coach speak, but maybe not. Right? Maybe not. Maybe there is a little bit of truth to it. Maybe Dennis Allen isn't just pulling our leg. And he actually does have some guys deep on the depth chart. We'll have to see. But either way, Chroma, consider me a fan. I've bought my stock. I'm all in. And I'm really excited to see what he does in these next 2 preseason games. And sticking in the NFC North, there's another defensive lineman from this division I want to talk about. And that is Ahmed Hassanin, the edge from the Detroit Lions, who has a really interesting story going into this season. Last year, he was a day 3 pick out of Boise State. He was one of those guys who was relatively new to football because he was a foreign-born player. Comes out, looks really good in camp, looked really good in the preseason, and then unfortunately got hurt and missed the entirety of the regular season. So then he comes out this year after rehabbing, getting healthy, looked great in camp, and in his first rep of live football in nearly a year, his first rep, he goes up against Cincinnati's first-team offensive line, beats his man, gets into the backfield, and sacks Joe Burrow on a drive that ends in a punt, right? Like, he looked really good from the jump in this game, and that wasn't his only sack. He had a strip sack later on in the third quarter as well, had a handful of pressures. He looked great in this game, had a couple plays against the run, even with good quickness, really, like, good flashes of hand fighting. He showed a little bit in this game, a little bit to get excited about. And this is now back-to-back preseasons where we're looking at this guy as somebody who can maybe crack Detroit's starting rotation. And I say that with my chest. Like, I am fully confident that that could be the case, because you take a look at Detroit's pass rush outside of Aiden Hutchinson, who is obviously your solidified number 1, that number 2 edge spot is not locked down. You have rookie Derek Moore, and you have veteran DJ Wanham, but neither one of those guys are guaranteed that spot. Maybe Moore is because you invested higher capital in him or whatever, but I really do think Hassanin has the potential to push for that starting spot. And if he doesn't start, that's okay. We know these teams rotate their defensive lines out constantly, and Hassanin as your third could be a weapon. He could give you that juice, that lightning in a bottle off the bench that could really help out this pass rush. And before we move on to a linebacker, there is one more player I want to shout out just really quick from Detroit's defensive line, and that is Skylar Gill-Howard, who I was a big fan of in college, loved him at NIU, and then he went to Texas Tech. I was a fan there as well. Went undrafted. He was somebody that had some issues. I was really excited to see what would happen with him early, and he lived around the ball throughout this game, had 2 QB hits, he had a red-hot motor all throughout the game. So all that said, those are 2 defensive linemen for Detroit that I am watching with great interest. I cannot wait to see how this year and the rest of their careers unfold, because I think both of them have a chance to be a really important piece of Detroit's pass rush. During a video I made last week where I ranked all 32 NFL teams into a tier list, talking about which ones I thought were going to contend, which ones I don't think are going to contend, all that good stuff, I mentioned when I was talking about the Colts that I don't like their linebacker room a lot. Love the secondary, love the defensive line. Linebacker room, I have some reservations with. And it's because that group is very young. There's a lot of young talent in there, like CJ Allen, who they just drafted, or Taj Chambers, who had a really nice preseason debut for the Colts against the Patriots. And that's not a shot at any of these young guys. I'm not saying that I think they're bad or they're not going to progress. It's just hard to bank on rookie linebackers because there is a learning curve. And given the fact that it's those guys and Akeem Davis-Gaither, who I'm not exactly betting on being a huge piece for this linebacker room this year, You can see my reservations. I could be proven wrong if some of these young guys want to step up. But regardless, Chambers looked really good in that preseason game, and because of that, I think there might be a little bit more juice to this room as a whole than maybe I was giving it credit for. He looked really, really good, primarily against the run. He was more than willing to get his hands dirty and come downhill and get into the backfield. And then in coverage, he was able to hang in both man and zone coverage, executing his assignments well with consistency. Like, there were not really any lapses there. He played really, really well in both phases. And honestly, there were a pair of plays that I think perfectly encapsulate what he was for them in this game. It was a consecutive second and third down in the fourth quarter, where Chambers made back-to-back pretty good plays. So on second down, he shoots into the backfield and brought down the running back for a loss. And then on third down, he dropped back into his zone and then flew downhill against a flat route to make a really, really strong tackle. It was like 3rd and 10. The pass was caught about 4 yards downfield, and he was there as like the second the ball was caught to fully wrap up that receiver, that tight end, whoever it was, I don't remember off the top of my head, and drop him and, force a punt on fourth down. Like, it was a really, really good pair of plays that showed off. He's good against the run. He's good in coverage. Now, I will say Chambers specifically is fighting an uphill battle because you look at this Colts defense, they drafted 2 linebackers this year. You have Jalen Carleys, who I think that's how you pronounce his name. I always struggle with his name. He is somebody that's been around for a little bit. You also have another UDFA in West Weeks. So I don't know how many linebackers the Colts plan to keep on the roster. Maybe Chambers, considering he was out there pretty late into the game, is the odd man out. But if he's the odd man out for the Colts, I think he has the talent to catch on somewhere else. Again, he was very technically sound in this game. You saw a decent bit of quickness with him getting downhill. I really liked what I saw. I was very impressed. Again, we'll see if he catches on with the Colts, but if not there, I'm buying into the idea that he can be a part of a linebacker room somewhere, and if nothing else, be good, secure depth for somebody. And that brings us to the man that inspired this video. The whole reason this video exists was so I would have an excuse to talk about this player right here, and that is Maury Bamba, the UDFA corner for the New York Jets, who I was just blown away by. Like, I will be honest, I did not know who he was before this game. Clearly, I was in the wrong. Clearly, I was sleeping because this guy has it. He has some juice. He has good, like, reactionary quickness and the ability to read and react to what the offense is doing. Like, he is a smart, quick corner that I understand why he went undrafted, but man, are other teams missing out. Bamba is going to be 26 this season and didn't test very well. In fact, he skipped out on one of the agility drills, so I can understand why teams passed on him. That being said, I really do think the Jets later this season, when we start seeing those like Jets secondary 2025 versus 2026, because there was so much turnover with them, when we start seeing those graphics, I do think Bamba's name will be on them because Bamba really, really impressed me primarily in off coverage, which is big because this Jets defense is going to run a lot of off coverage. That is one of the things that Aaron Glenn likes to do with his defense, and that was proven with one of their big draft picks. The corner who they drafted very early, D'Angelo Pons, he's going to have to kind of live in off coverage because of how small he is. So Bamba, I think, can be a good depth piece for a team that's going to use a lot of off coverage. He was so good at breaking downhill, triggering from deep, reading and reacting to the offense and what they were doing. And he had Garrett Green in particular in hell, which was bittersweet for me because I am a West Virginia fan. I want to see Garrett Green succeed. But man, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't entertained watching Maury Bamba have his number all night. And I think Green got him maybe once or twice. But for the most part, Bamba really had him, whether it was downfield again from off coverage. He was sticking in his hip pocket as well pretty well. And on top of that, at the line of scrimmage, playing press man, Bamba did a pretty good job. He has the length and the physicality to make a difference there. The only thing you didn't really see from him in this game was run defense. He didn't have any tackles. He didn't really get involved there. But in coverage, I was really impressed. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting here hyping up Bamba thinking he's going to be one of the saviors at corner for the Jets or anything like that. But as like your CB4 coming out in dime packages as a spot starter, if God forbid one of your starters get hurt, as, just having some depth there, I think Bamba could be a really nice option for them. He's 26, and you see that in the play, in the recognition, in the football IQ. He's a good player. He can play, and hopefully that injury and him missing the preseason does not take away from his performance in this first game. I admittedly am not super dialed into Jets camp. I don't know if he had a good camp, but like if he did, you pair that with that first game, I feel like he's got a real shot at the roster. And if not, I think he'll be a practice squad guy that will probably get elevated at some point this season and never turn back, or get poached by somebody else and be able to make their roster. So I think Bamba is a rosterable player. I think he should be on a 53-man roster somewhere, and the Jets, given the type of defense they're going to run and where he is at his best, would be the perfect fit. So I am buying my stock now. If you have any to spare, please send it my way. I will pay handsomely. I'm a big fan of this guy, and I'm really, really excited to see what he's got going forward. And finally, we're going to keep this one brief because I will admit I'm not a kicker guy. I don't know a ton about kickers. I don't evaluate kickers. It's just out of my wheelhouse. I'm man enough to admit when I'm out of my element. But Trey Smack for the Green Bay Packers went 3 for 3 in his debut and hit a 50-plus yard field goal. That is big. That is so big for them because this Packers team desperately needed a kicker. Like, they desperately needed it to work out because not only was their last kicker just a bad person, but he was really bad at football. He was a big reason why they blew that lead to Chicago in the playoffs. And so you go into this offseason, you draft a kicker, and so far, so good, right? 3 for 3 in that first preseason game in Pittsburgh, on the road. You got to feel good about it, right? So yeah, all in all, win for Green Bay. They needed this. Good for Trey Smack. Am I buying stock? No, because I'm a Bears fan. But it does look like Green Bay has at least a competent kicker, which is a major step in the right direction from last year. And with that, folks, that is going to be the end of this video. Those are 10 players who stood out to me through the first week of the preseason. And what you're seeing on screen right now is a list of players I had quote-unquote already bought stock in, which basically just means I talked about them at length in a series of videos I did back in July, where I broke down my favorite draft pick from each team. So if you're wondering where guys like Malik Muhammad or Grayson Holton are and why they didn't make this list, there's your answer. If you're wondering the same thing about some of the bigger names like Jeremiah Love or Sonny Styles or Arvell Reese, they're not here because I wanted to focus on some of the low-key names. I didn't want to focus on the big names that everyone already had their eyes on. The goal here was to bring attention to some people that maybe you're not paying as much attention to. And on top of that, I wanted to talk about guys that I just hadn't talked about yet, so I went out of my way to avoid players in those two categories. If you want to hear my thoughts on any of the players on your screen right now, you can check out those 8 videos on my channel or at the playlist that will be at the end of the video. Obviously, you don't have to watch all of them, but if any of them pique your interest, I talked like 4 to 5 minutes about each player, giving my thoughts on them as a whole, what I think they're going to be for their team going forward, what my thoughts were for them pre-draft, all that good stuff. So if you want to check those out, I definitely recommend it, and I would definitely appreciate it. But regardless, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and if you did, please leave a like down below, as it helps out the channel a ton. It shows your support, it shows you care, and I really do appreciate it. And also make sure to let me know down in the comments below who stood out to you during the first week of the preseason. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to have some civil football discourse in the comments, because that's why we do this thing, right? We do it to sit here and talk ball with people that, you know, maybe have similar or different opinions, whatever it may be. And make sure to subscribe as well for more NFL content coming your way throughout the season. I have a ton of fun stuff planned that you won't want to miss going forward. It's going to be a really good year here on the MillerFootball channel. But above all else, I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope you all have a wonderful morning, evening, afternoon, night, whatever time of day it is for you. I hope you enjoy it, because you're all wonderful people, and you truly do deserve it.
But it wasn't there in time, but I have never seen anything like that. In all my days, I have never seen anything like that.